മാസം 9ാമത്തെ മാസം അത് കടന്നുകൊണ്ടുള്ള എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ആ ഒരു സ്ഥിരത എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു വലിയ ടീം വിദ്യാർത്ഥികളുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. വളരെ കൃത്യമായ സമയത്ത് അവരുടെ ഓപ്പി ഓടി വന്നിട്ട് ഈ സ്റ്റേജ് സജ്ജീകരിച്ചു. പിന്നെ കുറെ വിമർശനങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടായി, കുട്ടികൾ കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ഇതിൽ പങ്കെടുത്തില്ല എന്നുള്ളത്. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ഇന്ന് സാർ അവതരിപ്പിച്ച ആ റിപ്പോർട്ട് ഇത് ഇത്ര ഗഹനമായ ഒരു റിപ്പോർട്ട് ആയിരിക്കുമെന്ന് ഒരിക്കലും പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുന്നില്ല. കാരണം അതിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നു എത്ര അധ്യാപകർ ചോദ്യം ചോദിച്ചു, എത്ര വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾ ചോദിച്ചു എന്നുള്ള കാര്യം ഒക്കെ അത് ഈ രീതിയിൽ കാണുന്നത് ഞാൻ ഒരിക്കലും കരുതിയില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന ഒരുപാട് പേർക്ക് തോന്നുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ വിഴുങ്ങിയ ചോദ്യങ്ങൾ ഒന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു വിടാമായിരുന്നു, ഒരു ഡിസ്കഷനിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാമായിരുന്നു. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ആ രീതിയിൽ ഇതൊരു മുന്നോട്ടുള്ള പോക്കാണ്. നമുക്ക് ജീവിതത്തിൽ ഒരിക്കലും പെർഫെക്റ്റ് ആകാൻ പറ്റില്ല, പക്ഷെ ഇന്നലെയേക്കാൾ മികച്ച രീതിയിൽ എക്സലന്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ നമുക്ക് നാളെ കഴിയുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ തന്നെ പുരോഗതിയുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ വിജയികളുടെ പേരുകളാണ് ഉയർന്നു വന്നത്. അവർ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അഭിനന്ദനങ്ങൾ അർഹിക്കുന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ ഇതിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്ന ഈ കോമേഴ്സ് യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റീസിൽ മുഴുവൻ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾ, മുഴുവൻ ശരിക്കറിയാം ഓരോ പ്രസന്റേഷനിലും ഏറ്റവും കുറഞ്ഞത് 3 തവണ മുതൽ 8 തവണ വരെയെങ്കിലും ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് ആദ്യം നന്നായിട്ട് അറിയാം.
തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഞാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു, പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കുന്നു, ആശംസിക്കുന്നു അടുത്ത വർഷം ഇതിനേക്കാൾ മികച്ച അസസ്മെന്റ് ക്രൈറ്റീരിയയോട് കൂടി ഒരു നല്ല സുവനീർ തന്നെ ബോധിക സെമിനാർ കമ്മിറ്റി
പുറത്തിറക്കി. ഇന്നിപ്പോ പ്രതിപാദിക്കപ്പെട്ട ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റുകൾ അവരുടെ 1ാം സ്ഥാനം നിലനിർത്തുക എന്നുള്ള വലിയ ഉത്തരവാദിത്തം. ആദ്യം 1ാം സമ്മാനം നേടുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എളുപ്പമാണ്, പക്ഷെ അടുത്ത വർഷം അത് നിലനിർത്തുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്റെ മുന്നേ ടീച്ചറെ കുറച്ച് പ്രയാസമായിരിക്കും. കൗമാരപ്രത്യേക ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റും ശല്യേന്ദ്ര ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റും മറ്റു ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റുകളും വളരെ ശക്തമായ മത്സരമായിട്ട് മുന്നോട്ട് ഉണ്ടാകും. എല്ലാവർക്കും ഇതിന്റെ പിന്നിൽ പ്രവർത്തിച്ച എല്ലാവർക്കും ഹൃദയം നിറഞ്ഞ ആശംസകൾ.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone. That was very enriching. Now, I invite Dr. Prashant Mishra, Secretary, AKGACAS.
അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്യാനാണ് എന്നെ ഏൽപ്പിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇതിനേക്കാൾ നന്നായി മുന്നോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകും എങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമുക്ക് ഈ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം പുറത്തുനിന്നുള്ള ആയുർവേദക്കാർക്ക് പോലും പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം ആവുകയും നമ്മുടെ സംഘടനയുടെ ജേണലിലൊക്കെ ഇത് പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു ലെവലിലേക്ക് നമ്മൾ ഉയർന്നു വരണം. ഇതിനകത്ത് ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടെ ഞാൻ സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. നമ്മളുടെ വളരെ ചെറിയൊരു കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയാണ്, കുറച്ച് ഫാക്കൽറ്റീസും ഒക്കെ ഉള്ളത്. അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് നമ്മളുടെ ഇടയിൽ നിന്ന് തന്നെ ആളുകളെ മാത്രമേ നമുക്ക് ഇത് സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുകയുള്ളൂ. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ഇതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് സംഘടനയുടെ ഇതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് നമ്മുടെ പല ഫാക്കൽറ്റീസിനെയും, അപ്പൊ പലർക്കും നമ്മുടെ ടൈറ്റ് ഷെഡ്യൂളില് ഈ പുതിയൊരു വലിയ ഭാരിച്ച ഉത്തരവാദിത്തം ഏൽക്കാൻ ഒരു റിലക്റ്റൻസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ മുന്നോട്ട് വരണമെങ്കിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മളുടെ കൂടെയുള്ള പ്രോബ്ലംസ് നമ്മളുടെ കുട്ടികളെ ഉയർത്തിക്കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ നമുക്ക് മാത്രമേ പറ്റുന്നുള്ളൂ. അപ്പൊ എല്ലാവരും ഇതേപോലെയുള്ള ഭാരിച്ച ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം, അതായത് വളരെ സ്ട്രിക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഇതിന് മുന്നോട്ട് വരണം തന്നെയാണ് പറയാനുള്ളത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇത് നമുക്ക് പ്രിൻസിപ്പൾ ഉത്തരവാക്യം തന്നെ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ഉത്തരവ് നമ്പരും കൂടെ ഒന്ന് ജസ്റ്റ് വായിക്കുന്നു. ഉത്തരവ് നമ്പർ G1 3499/2020. പ്രിൻസിപ്പളിനെയും അഭിനന്ദിക്കാതിരിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. നമ്മൾ എഴുതി കൊടുത്ത അടുത്ത ദിവസം തന്നെ മാഡം ഉത്തരവാദിത്തം തന്നു. നമ്മുടെ അടുത്ത ചെയർമാൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ബോധിക കോമൺ സെമിനാറിന്റെ സീമജ ടീച്ചറാണ്, അസോസിയേറ്റ് പ്രൊഫസർ, ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് അമൃതമാണ്. കൺവീനർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ കിരൺ സാറാണ്. assistant professor, Rasasastra and Lecturer. Members are faculties are Dr. Anila, Prasudandran Department, Dr. Ninu Peter, assistant professor, Nidaran Department. In a random PGSA, Ella Department, PGSA, selected Dr. Vishnu, Dr. Megha Sadish, Shalakin Department. Part of the team ഫ്രണ്ടിലോട്ട് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് ഇത് ഒഫീഷ്യലായിട്ട് തന്നെ ഹാൻഡ് ഓവർ ചെയ്യാമെന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. സീമജ ടീച്ചർ, കിരൺ സാർ.
I request the new committee BODHIKA 2023 to come forward.
നമ്മളുടെ അടുത്ത പ്രോഗ്രാം തുടങ്ങേണ്ട സമയമാകുന്നതിനാൽ നമുക്ക് ഇനി വളരെ സമയം കുറവാണ്.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you all. With this, we conclude the BODHIKA Valedictory meeting. I request all the faculties and PG scholars to stay back. We have another function at 3 p.m.
Hello. A warm good evening to all the dignitaries, faculties, and PG scholars present here. Today we have gathered here for the valedictory function of Bodhika Common Seminar Series 2022 and the inauguration of Ayurveda Day celebrations. Let's begin the program by invoking the blessings of Almighty with a prayer.
ശീർഷം സമുന്നതം ഇവിടെ വിജ്ഞാനം പൂർണ്ണസ്വതന്ത്രമായി അവികലമായി വിരാജിപ്പു നിത്യവും ഇവിടെ വിജ്ഞാനം പൂർണ്ണസ്വതന്ത്രമായി അവികലമായി വിരാജിപ്പു നിത്യവും മുക്തി തന്നെയാ സ്വർഗരാജ്യത്തിലേക്കെന്റെ നാടുന്നുണരണേ ദൈവമേ മുക്തി തന്നെയാ സ്വർഗരാജ്യത്തിലേക്ക് എന്നെ നാടുന്നുണരണേ ദൈവമേ.
Now, I invite Dr. Sunil John, Chairman, BODHIKA-2022, for the welcome speech.
Good afternoon all. Respected Principal in charge, Dr. Sunita Jia, Honorable Principal Secretary for Health and Family Welfare and Ayush, Srimati Chingu Bisalman, Honorable Director of Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, Professor Chandrabas Narayan sir, respected teachers and tomorrow's talented physicians, my dear students. It's an honorable moment to have all your prestigious presence here. Before I step into my official duty of delivering the welcome speech, I would like to take a moment to reminisce you our college's achievement in honoring up the skilled physicians every passing year and activities of BODHIKAs and DCs. In an effort to escalate the academic standards of our college to an international level for Center of Excellence, we constituted various committees, and BODHIKA Seminar Committee is a subcommittee of functioning under the academic committee. In 2022 January, the principal issued the order reconstituting the BODHIKA Seminar Committee, which includes 4 faculties and 2 PG representatives. With utmost discipline, planning and unity, the team conducted the presentations of all 65 PG students, which ended on 28 September 2022. We have 2 invited faculty presentations from Dr. Sri Kumar and Dr. Madan Kumar. The schedule started on January 24, 2022, with the inaugural address by Dr. Sanjeev Kumar, the Director of ICONS, Institute for Communicative and Cognitive Neurosciences. At Kerala Government Ayurveda College Adhyapaka Sanghadana, which is the one and only organization for the teachers in Government Ayurveda College, and the Samtari PGSA was the backbone for the entire BODHIKA series. The most prestigious thing for today's valedictory function is the presence of 2 eminent guests, Srimati Chingu Bisalman, Principal Secretary for Health and Family Welfare and Ayush, and Professor Chandrabas Narayan sir, who will be delivering the Government Ayurveda College annual oration 2022 today. It's a coincidence that both our guests are masters in physics. On behalf of Government Ayurveda College faculties, staff and students, we welcome you, ma'am, to our 123-year-old academic institute, the one being more ancient than Tirunelveli Medical College. Professor Chandravas Narayana sir, well-known scientist and a person who had been keenly observing the researches and scientific developments in Ayurveda, had been a credible guide to us. On behalf of the faculties, staff and students, we welcome you, sir. Our principal, Dr. G.J., who was the initiator for the series, she is on leave, and hence the principal in charge, Dr. Gia Sunita ma'am, who is a member of our family, would be presiding today's meeting. I welcome you, ma'am. The distinguished office bearers of various organizations and strong supporters for all developmental activities of our institute, who will be delivering the felicitations today, include Dr. C.S. Kumar, State General Secretary, Adhyapaka Sangatana, Dr. Prashant S.R., Unit Secretary of Adhyapaka Sangatana, Sri Sanil Kumar, President of our PTA, Dr. Megha Satish, President of PG Students Association, Dr. Anish S., Secretary of PG Diploma Students Association, Dr. Naina, President of House Surgeons Association, Sri Vishwanath SP, Chairman College Union, and Dr. Nimisha Narendran, who provided the entire tech support for the Bodhika series, would be delivering the vote of thanks today. On behalf of the faculty, staff, and students, I welcome you all. Once again, welcoming all the distinguished guests, respected faculties, doctors, and students gathered here. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let me welcome Dr. Sunita Jia, Principal in Charge, Government Ayurveda College, Thiruvananthapuram, for the presidential address.
Honorable Chief Guest, Srimati Tingu Vishwal IAS, Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare Department, Government of Kerala, Professor Chandravas Narayan, Director, Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, respected teachers and my dear students. Thank you all for your presence here today. Your presence here in this afternoon brings honor to this institution, Government Ayurveda College, London. It's my privilege that I have been assigned to deliver the presidential address of this esteemed function. BODHIKA, a weekly seminar program participating all the PG students, faculty members, includes paper presentations of PGs, interaction with faculty members, and invited talks from off-campus experts. It is the unanimous and enormous effort of our teachers and all PG scholars that each and every series of BODHIKA was a huge success. And we have marked the end of BODHIKA, the Common Seminar Series 2022, by conducting interdepartmental paper presentation competition. Also, I would like to inform you all that the National Ayurveda Day, which is celebrated every year on the occasion of Dhanvantari Jayanti, that is on October 23rd, in collaboration with all the ministries and departments of Government of India, so that every person of the nation is made aware of traditional system of Ayurvedic medicine. As we all know, the Ayurveda Day celebrations are being held under Asadika Amrit Mahotsav initiative. The theme of this year is Har Din Har Ayurveda. Through these programs, each and every person should be made aware of our traditional system of medicine. Prevention of diseases and promotion of health through our Ayurveda will give benefit to a large stream of people by reducing the burden of diseases and also to improve the quality of life. So on this very special day, I would like to announce that we also celebrate the inaugural function of Ayurveda Day and annual oration. Thus, once again, I wholeheartedly invite Srimati Tingu Biswal and Professor Chandravas Narayan sir to this function. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It is indeed with great privilege that I welcome the. It is indeed with great privilege that I welcome the ML Srimati Tinku Biswal, IAS, Principal Secretary for Health and Family Welfare and Ayush, Government of Kerala for the inaugural address.
Srimati Tinku Biswal, IAS, the Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare and Ayush, Government of Kerala. She started her career in Indian Administrative Services from 1997. During 2008 to 2010, she served as Director of Agriculture with Government of Kerala. For a couple of years, from 2010, she served the post of Chief Executive Officer at the Committed Communities Development Trust, Mumbai. She showcased remarkable service as Director General at the Indian Institute of Management, Government of India in the year 2014-15. She had an esteemed service as Secretary of Water Resources for more than 4 years. The period of 2018-19 was quite a meritorious year of her service as she served as Commissioner General of Taxes. She also continued to serve as the Principal Secretary at Animal Husbandry Department, Dairy Development, Fisheries and Ports at Government of Kerala from 2020. When we take a look at her educational profile, the Master's degree in Physics from Utkal University and in Public Policy Analysis from Woodrow Wilson School, Princeton University is worth mentioning. Her esteemed self is currently serving as the Principal Secretary of Health and Family Welfare and Ayush with Government of Kerala. It is indeed a tremendous privilege to have you with us today, ma'am.
Thank you for that introduction. Uh, Good evening, everyone. Dr. Dr. Sunita Jia, Dr. Chakuras, Dr. Sunil John, other members on the dais, um, students, faculty, ladies and gentlemen. It is a matter of pleasure to me to be here amidst young minds and in the presence of an eminent scientist who is here to deliver the oration today for one simple reason, and one of your faculty members is well aware of what that reason is, and it is about about something that the sector has long been something that has been held against the sector for too long, about evidence-based research, evidence-based protocols, evidence-based planning and standards. So I was really happy to learn about the Bodhika seminar series. While it will start off as presentations of PG students and their thesis papers. Now that kind of sets the tone for more scientific inquiry and for in-depth and more detailed research. Now, this is one area that that the sector has been beset with and has not been able to address over time. Government of India, as a matter of fact, is pushing for the Ayush sector to be recognized and given its due recognition in the public health sector. And one of the major challenges before us is to define what those standards are. What are the public health standards in the Ayush sector? Whatever it is, whether it is Ayurveda, Homeo, Unani, whatever. And it is in that respect, and standards are not merely about facilities, it is not merely about infrastructure, it is not merely about manpower. It is also about the processes and the protocols that we adopt. And on what basis then do you standardize processes and protocols? And where do we, how do we go forward in establishing those processes and protocols? I am told time and again that even during COVID, the sector had played a commendable role, and that is quite true. I take this opportunity to commend each one of you who has been associated with those efforts. But the fact still remains that documentation is um, is not up to the standard that we would want it to be. So, without documentation and without actual in-depth
in-depth presentation of evidence and in-depth analysis, and then linking cause and effect. It is going to be a very, very hard task for us to do what policymakers really want us to do, and which would include in Government of Kerala, us sitting at government, trying to move forward for integrated treatment systems, a holistic integrated public health action for the allopathic sector or the modern medicine, as everybody tends to call it, for them to be on board, and because they adopt very, very stringent processes of standardization of their protocols and processes, for them to work alongside you and the Ayush sector. Research would be research in evidence-based standardization would be the way forward, and I'm sure that that is not too far away. While this, I do acknowledge that a lot is there in terms of the traditional knowledge and traditional documentation, but also, we were talking. I had a meeting a couple of days back where we were discussing public health standards, we were discussing referral systems, we were discussing how do you go about addressing what are the challenges that we face, and and then this integration with of all systems of medicine to come forward and look at the emerging challenges. I was also just talking to Dr. Chandrabhas, where his institute is collaborating with the government of Kerala, and very, very strongly on the antimicrobial resistance action plan, the state action plan for antimicrobial resistance, and the realization that there are challenges even in modern medicine. So, where does traditional medicine come in to address those challenges for antimicrobial resistance, for instance? What are alternative medicines that we can look at? What are the alternative protocols that would overcome these hurdles that we face as we try to move forward? So, and therefore, there is so much. There is a whole new world out there which needs to be explored. As Dr. Rajmohan, who is a special officer handling the International Research Institute for Ayurveda, which the government of Kerala is looking to set up at Kannur, as he was mentioning, there is so much to be done, whether it is translational research, whether it is clinical research, whether it is about pharmacology, about medicines. There's a whole Western Ghats which remains unexplored in terms of medicinal value. And then, but then the entire, have we set those systems in place where we look at a proper protocol and the various steps of documentation of trials and publication and peer review, which is very, very stringently followed in any scientific community. And for that scientific temper to become a part of this of the Ayush sector, I think is the main goal. And I do hope that seminars like this become the stepping stone. The Bodhika series becomes the stepping stone for what policymakers really want for evidence-based research and development. That I would like to end my address and congratulate each one of you who has been a part of these of the Bodhika seminar series, who have presented their papers, and many of you, I do hope, will continue in with the same scientific spirit of scientific inquiry and move forward towards evidence-based research that we are looking forward to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now let's move on to the auspicious lamp lighting ceremony. I welcome all the dignitaries on the dais to join for the same. you all. We all know that Ayurveda Day is celebrated nationwide on the day of Dhanteras, which falls on the 23rd of October this year with the theme Har Din Har Ghar Ayurveda. Our institution has already started awareness classes, medical camps, and talks in print and media in association with the same. And so, we now move on to the logo release of National Ayurveda Day 2022. Let me with all the pleasure welcome Srimati Tinku Biswal once again to release the logo and declare the event commence. I also welcome Dr. Sajida Badran, General Convener, Dr. Jinesh, Co-Convener, and Dr. Anand Lakshmi, Sangatana President, to receive the logo.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you all the dignitaries. Now is the moment we all have been waiting for. Let the drum rolls to welcome the winners of BODHIKA Grand Finale Presentation Competition that occurred yesterday. Audience, any guesses? Let me unveil the suspense. Second runner-up of BODHIKA Grand Finale Competition, none other than Dr. Madhubala Gopinath, Department. I request Srimati Tinku Biswal ma'am to reward our winners. Third prize, Dr. Madhubala Gopinath, Dravida Vijnana Department, topic Ayurveda and Telemedicine, affordable and accessible healthcare for all. And with the heartbeats, next let's move on to the first runner-up. First runner-up is Dr. Manisha A.S., Ayurveda Department. I request Dr. Chandravas Narayanan to give away the prize. Thank you so much, sir. I request next prize to be given by Dr. Srimati Tinku Biswal ma'am. At last, the most awaited winner of BODHIKA Presentation Competition. The first prize and the title winner of BODHIKA Presentation Competition is, again, any guesses? Yes, it's Dr. Nimisha Narendran from Ayurveda Department. Dr. Nimisha Narendran from Ayurveda Department. Her topic was case report on Lepoda prophecy myoclonic epilepsy. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. And congratulations to the winners. Now, it's time for the Best Department Award. I request Srimati Tinku Biswal ma'am to reward our Best Department. It's my immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Rajam, HOD, Department of Prashasana and Vaishya Kalpana, to receive the Best Department Award. Biswal ma'am to stay back. Now I invite Dr. Sunita Jia, Principal in Charge, Government Ayurveda College, Thiruvananthapuram, to present a token of gratitude to Srimati Tingu Biswal ma'am. Now, I humbly request Professor Chandrabas Narayana, Director RGCB, to give away the prizes for the title winners of BODHIKA Common Seminar Series 2022. Sir, please. The second runner-up is Dr. Anjana Ragi from Samhita Samskrita and Siddhanta Department, presented the topic Prevalence of Amlapita in Kagadi Grama Panchayat with special reference to Anupadesha. The first runner-up is Dr. Parvati S. Prasudi Tantra and Sriroga Department, presented the topic Effect of Shilajanu on Insulin Resistance in Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome. The title winner of BODHIKA Common Seminar Series 2022 is Dr. Minu Krishnan from Rasashastra and Vaishnav Department, presenting the topic Physicochemical Analysis of Asana Vivadi Tailam and comparison with market samples manufactured by GMP certified companies in Kerala. Congratulations to all winners. Thank you so much, sir.
Now let me welcome Professor Chandrabas Narayana, Director, Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology for the annual Ration 2022.
Professor Chandrabas Narayana is the Director of Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, the country's leading molecular biology and biotech research and development institute. As a highly accomplished scientist and an interdisciplinary research leader, he earned his PhD from Department of Physics, Indian Institute of Science, after completion of his bachelor's and master's in science from Regional Institute of Education, Mysore. Before joining as a faculty member at Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, he did his postdoctoral research at Cornell University, Ithaca, New York. He specialized in Raman spectroscopy and also served as professor of chemistry and physics at Medical Units, Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research Institute. He holds 3 international patents as well. Professor Narayana has been recipient of several coveted honors, including Bronze Medal from Material Research Society of India, Sir C.V. Raman Young Scientist Award, and C.N.R. Rao Oration Award. He has published over 175 research papers across various international journals. He is currently serving as Dean at Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, Bangalore, and also as the Director of RGCB. It is indeed an honor to have you amongst us, sir.
First of all, extremely sorry. I don't know what is happening, but I was feeling a little giddy. So I'm sitting and giving the talk for the first time. I never sat. I always walked around and given a talk. So please bear with me, but I'll try to make it as interesting as possible because I don't know. I am still not able to gauge what happened to me, but I'm feeling a little giddy. So I'll be giving this talk sitting. So thanks for, first of all, I should thank the principal for inviting me for this oration lecture, and also to our Rajmohan sir, who has actually been contacting me and letting me know. It has been wonderful to have in the audience my very recently, I mean, about 2 years back, I met Srimati Tinku Bishwal, who was our neighbor, and today she is also our Principal Secretary for Health, which directly is connected with RGCB. Uh, just give me a minute. Sorry for the delay. I'm going to speak to, first of all, people who are in Ayurveda, and as already introduced, I am a physicist turned biologist. So I use a technique which is actually the only Nobel Prize winning technique of India. That is Sir C.V. Raman, who got the Nobel Prize. I use that in biology. I wanted to mention to you, since Srimati Tinku Vishwal had mentioned, you are at a very important juncture in your life. Basically, India and Western world is actually looking at alternative medicine. And the only thing which stops you from becoming important and from becoming what it takes to make an intro into the modern medicines is your ability to understand and use available techniques around you to make sure that your products are easily acceptable by the standards of modern medicines. And that's the reason why I am putting myself as an example. Being a physicist who was using a technique which Sir C.V. Raman never thought would be ever used in biology because he hated chemistry, he hated biology. That is not known to most of you, but he used to be he used to think physics can answer everything. And that's how he used to be living. And today, this is a technique which has become very important in the biological field. And it's still nascent ages, and I have been happy that I was actually one of the initiators in India to start using this technique. So similarly, I want all of you to think about available techniques around you, learn about it, and try to use it in multiple areas. So I will go very slow, and I heard that one of the question or one of the problems with your Bodhika event was that none of the students asked questions. So I hope that you are going to ask me some questions at the end of this session. And I have about half an hour to speak, right? So I will not try to keep her away because Srimati Tinku Vishwal is a very busy person and I would not like to take away a lot of her time. So to begin with, I am actually using a technique which is light based. That means you know light. So we use light, and light actually interacts with matter. And from your childhood, you have been told that light transmits, it actually reflects, it also absorbs, and also it luminesces. So many of these things you have seen, you have studied, you have learned. But another thing which has been taught to you is basically scattering. And you would have, if you remember your younger days, when sky is blue, it is told as scattering, right? It's different from reflection. It is very important thing. And I always tell that people get it confused that I see you because of reflection is what the most common answer is. But it is not because of reflection I see you. I see you because of scattering. So scattering is an important technique for understanding material because it interacts with the material and gives you light around it. Now there are two types of scattering, which is what I have written there. It is elastic scattering and inelastic scattering. Now elastic scattering, whenever we say, people would remember that in your childhood you have thought about something called elastic collision, where a tennis ball goes and hits on a wall and comes back. There the energy remains the same in a collision. Similarly, in light scattering, energy doesn't change, and energy is related to the color, and that means no change in color is what is elastic scattering. But along with that, Raman discovered that there is inelastic scattering of light, that means change in color, and that change in color could happen in blue or red side of the spectrum. That means it is blue shifted or red shifted. Now, this you can actually show in real life because nowadays you have lasers. You can actually put a laser because laser is a monochromatic light source. And when you actually see the laser here, it is basically going through a colorless liquid, and this liquid is actually scattering the light. It's not reflecting, it's scattering the light because the light is coming to the camera which is 90 degrees to you. And that means it cannot be reflection, it has to be scattering. And it is a very intense light, that's why it is saturated the detector and it looks like white. And if you actually filter out the blue light, you can immediately see there are other colors of light which come. And that's what Raman discovered. And for knowing what are the different colors of light, you know that you always were taught a prism can disperse the light. That means you can make the white light into big glare, red, blue, green, all of these colors can be done. Similarly, Raman actually used a prism, and this is the setup he used to actually discover the Raman effect. It's a very simple system. It has a prism, it actually has a photographic plate, and he actually discovered with this particular instrument, which is present in Indian Association for Cultivation of Science. And this gave him the Nobel Prize. And what did he see from a photographic plate is that he has elastic scattering, which is in the middle, and there is inelastic scattering on either side. And this inelastic scattering is actually very, very interesting because it is related to the material which has actually produced it. And that's what got him the Nobel Prize, because it tells something about the material which is present. Today we can make these Raman spectrometers with lasers in Amazon, which is available for 1,000 rupees. That green laser is available in Amazon. You can use fiber optics to collect the light passed through the system. You can use a grating instead of a prism, and you can take a SLR camera and record the Raman spectrum. This is as simple as that. And you can see, when you record the spectra, you can see that you have the elastic scattering on the left side of my screen, on your right, left side on your screen. Yes, left side on your screen. And your right side is the red shifted lines. If you digitize it, you would actually see that wherever that light was coming, there will be a peak associated. But the interesting aspect is that today we can make these spectrometers for biological applications. You can take a 96 well plate, which is there in most of the biology labs, and you can use a motorized stage, and whatever sample you put in the 96 well plate, you can actually identify very easily. Now, this I have made it myself, it's in my lab. I can actually make this in dozens. Now, if you look at it, if you see the vibrations of molecules are the reason why we get the Raman spectrum. And these vibrations are very, very unique. And vibrations are actually related to, you can see that these vibrations are very, very unique for a particular system. And here I am showing a spectra which is coming out, Raman spectra coming out of ethanol. Ethanol is having OH, CH2, CH3, and various other things. And these vibrations are what is the reason why I am actually seeing this system. Now, the Raman spectra is a direct molecular fingerprint of the molecules. And that's the reason why it's a very powerful tool. So you know now, in your Ayurveda, if you want to actually quantify things or know what exactly is happening in your system, you can actually use the Raman spectra. I think I'm feeling vomiting, so that must have been the reason for my giddiness. It's okay. I'll just complete this. Now, yes. I will play with it. So I'll go fast. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you two examples where I use Raman spectroscopy. So I'll skip some of the slides. Sorry for that. I will try to make it interesting by telling the story which I'm actually using it. So I will not show you the details. No, it's okay. No issue. I'll just finish it off. So, one of the things which I have actually used the Raman spectrometer, these are my latest results, this year's results. I am actually talking about. Two problems I have been looking at. One of the problems which I am looking at is, you know, that neurodegenerative diseases. One of the problems with neurodegenerative diseases is aggregations of protein. And you want to find out whether the aggregation is happening and what is the process of aggregation. And that's what is the question we are targeting. So, can I actually look at an aggregation process and try to understand what initiates an aggregation process? We are actually looking at aggregation. The aggregation is happening in proteins through some mechanism, and this is what I was looking at using lysozymes. And lysozymes are an umpteen amount present in egg white, and so I was using the hen egg white as an example and trying to look at the aggregation process of hen egg white. And this was started by my colleague in IIT Guwahati. His name is Swaminathan, and my student Divya, who finished her PhD this year, were working together on this problem. Now, why are aggregations so important? Because lysozyme is our defense mechanism for our various processes, and it is present in our milk, saliva, tears, and mucus. All of these things have the lysozymes. And it is found that lysozymes are very important because they can actually be triggers for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington disease. So that's the reason why I was actually looking at it. But my interest was to understand how does this aggregation process itself takes place. Now, the aggregation process itself is in two types. One is a random aggregation, another one is a sequential polymerization process. So these two processes happen. It is not a problem if I have a polymerization, but if I have aggregation in random nature, then it leads to diseases. And that's what is the problem with aggregation system. So we were actually looking at what triggers aggregation in hen egg white lysozymes or human lysozymes. In fact, both of these things aggregate by a trigger. One of the method of aggregation is by using acidic pH, and acidic pH actually requires a little bit of temperature to aggregate the protein. The other way is spontaneous aggregation, where you change the pH into a basic pH. So these two processes can be visualized very easily by today's techniques, which are called atomic force microscope, and you can see the aggregation, whatever I'm showing on the right hand side, is actually seen visibly in the left hand side. This we can see, and this is very easy to see. And this aggregation process, if it is uncontrolled and it happens randomly, leads to many diseases in the body. Now, our idea was, because Raman is a fingerprint of the molecule, I should be able to actually talk about the aggregation process itself. In Raman, as I said, it is the vibrations of the molecule which I actually look at it. I can actually look at proteins, and proteins have a very, very important thing, that is the peptide bond, C double bond O NH. And that vibration is very, very sensitive to the hydrogen bonding or the folding of the protein. So if you have an alpha helix, you have a beta sheet, you have a random coil, you can actually see the differences in this aggregation, in the secondary structures. So this is what I was actually using as a marker. Another thing is that there are many, you have very strong histidine, tryptophan. These are aromatic amino acids. They also give you a very strong signature in the system. Now, this is what I wanted to look at. And the other key area where I was actually interested in was the cysteines, which actually have a sulfur in it. And the sulfur actually forms disulfide bonds, and that's what I've shown you on the right hand side. The disulfide bond actually is very, very sensitive when it changes the pH, and that's what breaks the structure, and that's what we were actually looking at. So this is how the lysozyme spectra looks like, and we can actually classify it very easily, and I won't go into the details, but what I am interested in is the vibrations of the amine band, that is the C double bond O NH. And that vibration is what I am interested, and that is the extreme right, the peak which is labeled as amide 1. And that's what gives me the secondary structure of the protein itself. Now, when I actually do these experiments, I actually do it under a microscope. And this is how the lysozymes look like when I am actually looking at them. And what did I do? I actually take the lysozyme as is, take it at 7 pH, and I take it at 12.2 pH. And the spectra on the blue is the 12.2 spectra, and 7 is the green, and lysozyme in solid form is given at the bottom, that is the red. If you look at it, it starts off as if nothing has happened. It is exactly the same under all of these pH. As the time evolves, you will see that there are peaks associated with all of these amides related to the peptides, which are related to alpha helix, beta sheets, and then you have random beta turns and random coils. All of these are present. Now, what we see is we are taking a time evolved spectra, and since this time happens over days, I can actually do this recording at my own will. And you can see how this particular spectra is changing with time. You can see the spectra indeed, when you look at it, you see suddenly one of the peak is going down and another one is going up. The peak which goes down is alpha helix, and the peak which goes up is beta sheets. Basically, what it means is your alpha helix are opening up and becoming a beta sheet. And you know that amyloid fibers are predominantly beta sheets. It's a clear evidence of the formation of the amyloid fibers. And that's from the Raman, direct. Now, this is a comparison plot which actually shows the exact evolution of this to recapitulate whatever I said. Now, why does it happen is what we are interested in. So, if you see that as the time evolves, on the left hand side, I can see that in pH 7, nothing happens. In pH 12, the beta sheets get converted into, alpha helix get converted into beta sheets. And I can actually look at many other evidences for that. Due to the lack of time, I will quickly move on. I can even verify whether this is happening by doing a TEM, which is called the transverse electron microscope. It is exactly like any other microscopes. And you can see at 7 pH in the middle, you do not have any aggregations, but at pH 12.2, you have an aggregation forming. So exactly what I saw in my Raman, I am able to see the aggregation process is happening here. And another verification I can do by dynamic light scattering experiments where it tells you the size of these aggregations. And that's what is on the left hand side. Now, to prove that this aggregation is starting from a particular point, as I said, cysteines are there, and cysteines are actually locking up the protein, and so that the folding happens, and the cysteines are actually labeled as red in my spectrum. So I take a molecular dynamic simulation, that is theoretical calculation. I can actually break these bonds and try to see what happens there in different pHs. So what my colleague in bioinformatics did is try to look at the distance between the sulfur-sulfur bond after breaking when I actually have 7 pH and 12.5 pH. In the black curve, you can see the distance doesn't change, while in the red curve, the distance keeps on increasing. And if suppose the distance increases, you have another molecule which is coming near, it can start forming a bond with it, and aggregation can take place. And this is what actually is captured. You can actually see how the protein is unfolding in pH. On the top layer, you can see it remains intact, while at the bottom, the alpha helix have converted into beta sheets. So these can be captured in real, and this is where I use the Raman to prove that it is the disulfide bond which is actually breaking, because the peak on the left hand side is exactly for the disulfide bond, and for when my pH is 7, the disulfide bond doesn't change, while in pH 12, the disulfide bond intensity decreases, means my disulfide is breaking. So I have a confirmation from MD, I have a confirmation from my Raman that it is the disulfide which breaks. So now when I actually do this check, I can look at what is exactly happening in the system. And now I will go quickly over to showing that indeed the aggregation happens. So in molecular dynamic simulation, you can break it and then bring two molecules together. And when they do that, you can see that in pH 12, you can see a bonding happening between the two proteins. The green is one of the proteins and blue is another protein. And when you bring it together, they are actually combining together in the pH 12. So the breaking of the disulfide bond is the initiator for the aggregation process itself. And to prove that the aggregation is indeed from the sulfur, I actually use another reducing agent, which is iodacetamide, which reduces the sulfur. And if I reduce the sulfur, it should not aggregate. Now, when I do this, I can actually see the stopping of the aggregation. When I add the iodacetamide, I can see that the peak intensity doesn't change and there is no change between the alpha helix and beta sheets. So this way, I have actually proved that the aggregation process in lysozymes is happening because of the sulfur disulfide bond breaking, and the disulfide bond breaking in a pH 12 doesn't allow it to come closer to form back the bond, while it actually starts forming bonds with the other neighboring molecules. And this is exactly what is happening in this system. So this is how I have brought in a Raman spectrometer, which gives a direct evidence to what exactly the process is happening in my system. Now, another interesting aspect which I use that Raman is for diagnostics. See, in today's agriculture, one of the major problems which is faced by the farmers is that they get a seed and they grow the seed. They do not know whether that seed is the seed which they should be cultivating. They can come to know only after the seed has grown and the fruit starts happening. Fruiting starts happening. And that's a long time. Then you have a failure of a crop and you cannot actually judge. Generally, these crops have specific signatures, markers, which are called the single nucleotide polymorphism. Now, this single nucleotide polymorphism, or there are indels, that means insertion of a particular set of oligonucleotides in between, or breaking of the deletion of those things. And these are very important to be detected at an early stage. As soon as the crop is growing, if I can actually verify from the plant DNA whether it has the right kind of a system without taking it to the laboratory but on site. That is what today a farmer needs. And that's what is the reason for this experiment. So the motivation is very clear. I was actually looking at, so Indel and things most of you should be knowing, so I will not actually look at it. What crop I was looking at is a tomato crop. In tomato, there is a yellow curd leaf virus which actually affects the tomatoes crop. And today, whenever you are growing a tomato crop in your backyard or anywhere, you will find that it affects innovative method to look at this. So what I do is I have a specific PCR pattern, polymerase chain reaction, which actually I amplify the region which is specific to this particular tomato breed. And if I have a marker, which is basically a Raman marker, which is nothing but an oligonucleotide, this oligonucleotide, when it is actually at present, if this particular marker is present, it hybridizes and opens up this on the left hand side. There is a, sorry, on the right hand side, you see the oligonucleotide marker. There is a loop which I have created. If suppose there is a marker present, this will open up and it will actually bind with that marker. And once it opens up, I will get the signal. It's an on-off signal. So it opens up, I will get the signal. It's an on-off signal. So whenever it opens up, I will get a signal. If I do not open up, I do not get a signal. So this is a simple method of looking at it. So what I have is the sequence I know which is specific to the resistance. So whenever it is resistant, I have added a oligo which is specific to the resistor, and I can also add for the susceptible ones. So both of these things can be identified, and I am actually interested in multiplexing and seeing it. So this is what I do. So I have a sequence which is actually developed. Now once I have that, I have a marker which is specific for the resistant wire. That's a die which I have added. Another die which is added for the susceptible. If I have this die which is specific for my marker for resistance, it will give me the Raman signal. If it doesn't exist, the Raman signal will not be there. So this is like an on-off signal which is come. Now once I know this, I can identify these presence of this particular peak which is not present in both of these cases. I can identify that and I can map whether this particular thing exists. Now what I have done is I am only looking at that peak. Those two peaks are present here on the middle graph, which is there. I can see the two peak intensities. So you can see the resistance. This is for the resistant variety. Whenever the resistant variety is there, I see a signal increase, and whenever the deficient is there, it is actually not. It is going down. So this is a clear evidence to show that I am identifying only one type of marker. Now, if I put the marker for the susceptible one, you see the susceptible one actually peaks up and the marker for the resistance one goes down. So I can easily see in a compound which one is present and I can actually identify. So now the idea is what is the concentration I need to do so I can actually change the concentration and optimize my conditions. And here is a multiplexing. So what do I do? I confuse my dye by putting in E. coli. E. coli's DNA is not actually tomato DNA. So I should not have any binding of this. And you can see that the green one on the right side is actually E. coli and it shows nearly zero. That means it is not detected. So it doesn't bind non-specifically. And I am able to actually see a mixture of both of them. I can actually pick up both simultaneously. I am actually having a multiplex. So I can actually see which one is resistant, which one is actually susceptible in one shot. I can actually do these experiments. Today, this particular technique is being developed, and once I can do this, I can do it for both SNPs as well as for for any compound. So this is not only for the tomato, I can actually do this for any crop, and now you can also see in the medical field, I can also use it for in medical areas also. Like viruses, I already have a patent of that. Based on that patent only I have developed this. I have actually patent for detecting non-PCR based diagnostics. Kit for HIV already developed, but we are in the process of developing it for most of the other viruses also. So this is a possibility. This is a very interesting area to get into, and we can actually use this to identify many of these crops. So with that, I will actually go to the end of my talk. I will not, since I want to actually reduce the time taken. All this wouldn't have been possible without my students. And these are the people who actually really work. And as you see, I am sitting here and giving a talk, and I do not do these experiments. So I thank all my students for that, and thank you all for your attention. Thank you. If there are any questions, I can take it. But to keep it short for Tinku, I will actually answer it after the whole program is over. I will wait till all the dignitaries have left, and then I will talk to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such an enlightening and informative session, sir. It was so kind of you to put in efforts to complete the session even after being unwell. A lesson for all of us, right? Now I invite Dr. Sunita ji up to present sir with our token of love. Thank you, sir. Now it's time to reward the participants of BODHIKA Common Seminar Series 2022. I request our principal in charge to give away the certificates of honor for them. I request our principal in charge to give away the certificates of honor for them.
We have two faculty presentees in BODHIKA Seminar Series. First, Dr. Srikumar K, Associate Professor, Shalakirandra Department. I request Dr. Srikumar K, Associate Professor, Shalakirandra Department to receive honor. Next faculty presentee is Dr. Madan Kumar N.K., Assistant Professor, Regina Shalira Department. I request Dr. Madan Kumar N.K., Assistant Professor, to receive the certificate. Now, let's move on to the PG scholars. Dr. Abina R., Department of Agadadandra. Dr. Pooja Ramesh, Department of Agadadandra. Dr. Srigala Mohan, Department of Agadadandra. Dr. Subarya G.S., Department of Agadadandra. Dr. Anu Mariam Varghese, Department of Agadadandra. Dr. Abarna S.D., Department of Dravyaguna Vijnana. Dr. Varsha Babu, Department of Dravyaguna Vijnana. Dr. Preeti N., Department of Dravyaguna Vijnana. Dr. Nivya T.S., Department of Dravyaguna Vijnana. Dr. Soumya R. from Department of Kaya Chikitsa. Dr. Jasina T. from Department of Kaya Chikitsa. Dr. Sandeep Karun, Department of Kaya Chikitsa. Dr. Sujina V.S. from Department of Kaya Chikitsa. Dr. Anupama A.S. from Department of Kaya Chikitsa. Dr. Vishnupriya LR from Department of Chikiत्सा. Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. Srikumar K, Associate Professor, Department of Shalaki Tandra, to give away the certificates. Dr. Arya Anthony, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Sweda E, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Varsha K, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Chinju Tangachan, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Swati E, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Trishya PD, Department of Prasutinandra and Stri Yoga. Dr. Deepa CR, Department of Prasutinandra and Stri Yoga. Dr. Haripriya S, Department of Prasutinandra and Stri Yoga. Dr. Maradagavalli P, Department of Prasutinandra and Stri Yoga. Dr. Vidya Vinayagan, Department of Prasutinandra and Stri Yoga. Dr. Parvati S, Department of Prasutinandra and Stri Yoga. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Rajan, HOD, Professor, Department of Prasyastra and Vaishya Kalpana, to give away the certificate. Dr. Anjita M from R&D. Dr. Anjana S. Vijayan from Prasyastra and Vaishya Kalpana. Dr. Jamalia VM from R&D. Dr. Anju Elsa Roy from R&D. Dr. Kirtana from R&D. Dr. Lakshmi PN from R&D. Dr. Minu Krishnan from R&D. Dr. Sandhya S.R. Chandran from R&D. Dr. Rashmi Babu from R&D. Dr. Sini Elizabeth Sunny from R&D. Dr. Sharanya Badran from R&D. Dr. Ranjini NR from R&D. Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. Shiji, HOD, Department of Ardhanandra, to give away the certificates. Dr. Amrita S from Department of Shalaki Tantra. Dr. Atulya MB from Shalaki Tantra Department. Dr. Atulya N.B. from Department of Shalakitandra. Dr. Lakshmi Priya from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Melvin C. Joseph from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Priyanka K.R. from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. M.T. Amrita from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Ashwati Nair B. from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Mohammad Sadiq E.K. from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Mohammad Muflihat from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Chandana V.C. from Department of Shalyatantra. Dr. Sheetal M.C. from Samhita and Siddhanta Department. Dr. Harsha S. from Samhita Siddhanta Department. Dr. Anjana Ragi KG from Samhita Siddhanta Department. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I again request Dr. Asha Sridhar, HOD, Department of Pursuit and Yoga, to give away the certificates. Dr. Shruti O, Department of Samhita Sanskrit and Siddhanta. Dr. Anjita V.S., Department of Samhita. Dr. Vishnupriya S., Department of Samhita. Dr. Chinu T.R., Department of Swasthya. Dr. Shafina P., Department of Swasthya. Thank you, ma'am. Now, let me invite Dr. Rajan, Chairman Academic Committee, to give away certificates for the finalist of BODHIKA presentation competition. I request Dr. Rajan ma'am. Divya M.V. Rashastra and Vaishya Kalpana. Divya M.V. Department of Rashastra and Vaishya Kalpana. Dr. Shapna M.V. Shalaki Tantra Department. Dr. Shapna M.V. Shalaki Tantra Department. Dr. Shilpa Tengil, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Malavika M, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Malavika M, Department of Panchakarma. Dr. Shivapriya G, Department of Prasuti Tantra and Stri Roga. Dr. Manisha A.S., Department of Kaya Chikitsa. Dr. Manisha A.S., Department of Science. Dr. Vishnu K.T., Department of Shalakitandra. Dr. Vishnu K.T., Department of Shalakitandra. Dr. Saili Sanjay Sate, Department of Swasthavrita. Dr. Tanuja Naina, Department of Prasuditandra and Sriroga. Dr. Tanuja Naina, Department of Prasuditandra and Sriroga. Dr. K. Nisha Narendran, Department of Kaya Chikinsa. Dr. Shilpa Dr. Shilpa R, Department of Prashastra and Vaishya Kalpana. Dr. Madhubala Govinad, Department of Dravyaguna Vijnana. Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations to the participants. The evaluators and moderators of BODHIKA and participants in the grand finale competitions are requested to collect their certificates from the seminar committee.
Let me now welcome Dr. Prashant Desai, Secretary, AKGACAS, to address the gathering. Let me now welcome Dr. Prashant Desai to address the gathering.
Good evening. Actually, it is a very great pleasure that we have got such a bright dignitaries in the stage. Honorable Health Secretary, RD Director. Actually, this happens once in a rare moment in the college. I have seen from 2012 itself. I cannot even remember a single incident that such a academic gathering is happening in our college. Actually, my duty here is felicitations. I express my gratitude and all support to the future Bodhika team, which is led by Srimati teacher and Kiran sir. And I also appreciate the present Bodhika team for successfully running the whole series in a very appreciable manner and concluding it with a very befitting valedictory program. Thank you all.
I request all the dignitaries for felicitation to be on the dais. Dr. Shivakumar C.S., State General Secretary, AKGACAS, Dr. Prashant Issa, Secretary, AKGACAS, Trivandrum Unit, Sri Sanal Kumar, President PTA, Government Ayurveda College, Thiruvananthapuram, Dr. Megha Satish, Secretary, PGSA, President, PGSA, Dr. Anish S., Secretary, PGDSA, Dr. Naina, President, HSA, Sri Vishwanath SP, Chairman, College Union, Dr. Nisha Narendran, Bodhika Committee. I request all to be on the dais.
invite Shri Sanal Kumar, President PTA, Government Ayurveda College, Thiruvananthapuram, to deliver the felicitation notes.
ബോധിക എന്നുള്ള പേര് തന്നെ നമുക്കൊരു ഇൻസ്പിറേഷൻ പകരുന്നതാണ്. അതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് നടന്ന എല്ലാ ക്ലാസ്സിലും പങ്കെടുത്ത എല്ലാവരെയും ഞാൻ ഇക്കുറി അഭിനന്ദിക്കാൻ ഈ സമയം വിനിയോഗിക്കുകയാണ്. കാലികമായി പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇന്നത്തെ പത്രവാർത്തകൾ നിങ്ങളെല്ലാം ശ്രദ്ധിച്ചിരിക്കും. വീണ്ടും നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ മൃഗബലിക്ക് പകരം മനുഷ്യബലി തുടങ്ങിയിരിക്കുകയാണ്. അതിനെതിരെ നാം പ്രതികരിക്കേണ്ടിയിരിക്കുന്നു. യുവതലമുറ ഇതിനെതിരെ ശക്തമായി പ്രതികരിക്കണമെന്ന് മാത്രം പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ നിർത്തുന്നു. നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, sir. I welcome Dr. Megha Satish, President PGSA, for felicitation.
Respected Chief Guest, Srimati Tingu, Professor Chandra, our faculties, dear seniors, and my dear friends. Good evening to all of you. I'm very privileged to stand in this stage of both the Valedictory program and inauguration of Ayurveda Day celebrations. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the winners of BODHIKA Seminar Series 2022 and Grand Finale competition winners. I also appreciate all the members of BODHIKA team and PGSA members, PG and PGD members to make this program a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me now invite Dr. Anish S., Secretary, PGDSA, for the talk.
Respected Mr. Thomas, dear respected teachers, dear friends, I'm very privileged to deliver my presentation on the BODHIKA Common Seminar series, which is conducted by Samhudi BTSA and Kerala Government Private College Teaching Association. And it has been for 1 year that this innovative program is taking place started, and I'm sure that it was a great opportunity and platform for our final PGs to convey their ideas and sharing their experience and the work they have. And I congratulate all the participants and all the winners of the program conducted by Team BODHIKA. I myself and my on behalf of BGDSA, once again congrats all and best wishes for the coming series. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. I now invite Dr. Nayana, President HSA, to address the gathering.
Respected dignitaries, teachers, my seniors and friends, a very warm good evening to one and all. As we all know, BODHIKA is an academic venture hosted by Samhudi PGSA and Akhil Kerala Government Ayurveda College Adhyapaka Sanghadana every year to enrich, discuss and share a bit of clinical expertise and knowledge through seminar series among final year postgraduate students. Fortunately, this year, it is glad that this is happening again after 3 years of standstill caused by the pandemic. It will be glad in the coming years if such a better ideas and events can be conducted not only for the postgraduate students but also by including house surgeons and undergraduate students. And on behalf of HSA and I myself would like to congratulate all the winners and participants of BODHIKA-2022 and I express heartfelt wishes for BODHIKA to happen in the next and coming years with further more inclusiveness and fruitfulness. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me welcome Shri Vishwanath SP, Chairman, College Union, for the talk.
Respected dignitaries on and off stage, respected teachers, and my dear PG students. Actually, I don't consider myself worthy enough to speak in front of you, but still, as all of you know, BODHIKA is a year-long academic series conducted by PGSA and Adhyapaka Sanghadana jointly. On my personal behalf and Valedictory College Union 22-23, I express my sincere wishes to this outstanding program and hope that in future such programs are conducted on a further large scale with a large audience. Once again, thank you.
Now, I invite anybody from the audience, faculty or PG scholars, to give a comment on the Bodhika Seminar Series 2022. Anybody from the faculty or PG scholars can even come and leave a comment. Any of the participants in the Bodhika Seminar Series can have your suggestions and comments. I request the faculties and PG scholars to come forward. We once again request any of the PG scholars or faculties to give away their suggestions on Bodhika. Good evening all. It's very late. Okay, that's why no one had come forward. The Bodhika series has been a non-stop series. So congrats to the team for doing that. But as everyone told before, that the participation from the PG side was less. I think they didn't expect that this much monitoring was there on the performance because this is the first time a performance audit was done in our campus, and I think the performance audit should be continued in all our sections. And as far as I'm concerned, from the comparative department, our performance was very bad. I accept that, and I promise that we will improve in the coming future. And as Sweet told, we will be a fighter. We will be fighting against all the departments in the future. So I expect all the PG students also to come forward in the competitive spirit and take the session seriously, so that now everyone knows what they are monitoring and how they are giving the marks, etc. So I expect that in the future, everyone will be in a competitive spirit for Bodhika, and it will become a good platform for the in the coming future. Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you Bodhika team for conducting a nice, and it was a good session actually. Actually, it was a talk, an eminent talk by sir, but unexpectedly he was not well. That is why. Otherwise, he would have done many interaction with us, and it would have been a nice session. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you so much, ma'am, and take away the spirit, ma'am. I request any other faculties or PG scholars. PG scholars, come forward.
Good evening to one and all, respected dignitaries and respected teachers and dear friends. Actually, we have got such a wonderful platform to present our thesis and to discuss it with the teachers. Actually, I am not prepared what to say. Simply, I am spontaneously coming and I want to prepare what to say. So, Bodhika was such a nice platform for us to present the thesis. And at the beginning, we were a little bit confused what we will do regarding the series. But actually, by entering the presentation, it was very fruitful because it was for juniors. I am just advising you. It's a very good platform you to elaborate your ideas regarding the thesis. Because for my personal opinion, I could do each and every aspect of my thesis and all related areas. In my topic is physical analysis of assembler diagram. So I will, while preparing the presentation, in each and every slides, I will remind myself that what all questions will ask. So I will go in depth of the presentation and of the topic. So it was a very good
platform for us to participate.
Thank you, Doctor. And I'm a first year scholar from the Bodhika was really an informative session for all of us. The online sessions were almost boring for us because we were not aware of any of the topics. But when we moved to the offline section, it was very informative and very useful for juniors also. And the suggestion from our side is that already Suman have told, we will include second year's presentations for topics other than dissertation topics. So that is the suggestion from our side. And I think it will be a great platform next year for all of us to perform well. And I assure that our department will also come out with flying colors to compete with Kamar and Vidya. So thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now let's wind up the session with the vote of thanks. I invite Dr. Nivisha Narendran from the BODHIKA committee for the vote of thanks.
Hello. Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Guest of Honor, present Excellencies and my dear colleagues. It's a great privilege and pleasure to stand here to deliver the vote of thanks. It is often said that gratitude is the attitude that takes you to your altitude. I, Dr. K. Nivisha Narendran, on behalf of Bodhika Seminar Committee, feel elated to express my gratitude on this special occasion. First and foremost, I give glory to the Almighty for making today's juncture of BODHIKA-2022 a huge success. BODHIKA undoubtedly brought us together by cross-section in knowledge and sharing. Moving towards accomplishing my duty today, I express my profound gratitude to our Honorable Chief Guest, Srimati Tinku Biswal Ma'am, Principal Secretary, Health and Family Welfare and Ayush Department, who despite her numerous and rather tight schedule, has found time to grace this occasion personally. Your inspiring message and invaluable words has truly set the tone for the day. Thank you, ma'am, for your esteemed presence. I profusely thank our honorable guest of honor, Shri Chandramás Narayan sir, Director of Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, who accepted to articulate the Trivandrum Government Director College annual oration. Thank you, sir, for the unalloyed confidence and trust in us. We are humbled by your kind gesture in accepting for the oration, despite your numerous international assignments. Today, my words are not enough to express gratitude to our respected principal, Dr. J.G. Ma'am, for her constant support. I am thankful to our principal in charge, Dr. Sunita G.R. Ma'am, for her help and support at various stages. We will ever remain grateful to you and we thank you for being with us today. My sincere thanks to the Academic Committee Chairman, respected Dr. Rajan R. and all executive members for their assistance at all times. Next, I would like to thank the torch bearer of BODHIKA, respected Dr. Sunil John Sir, Chairman Seminar Committee, for leading and inspiring us in working towards the goal of conducting BODHIKA sessions. We are indebted to your unflinching support in enriching BODHIKA series from all its angles. Thank you so much, sir. My heart fills with lots of gratitude and respect for our respected Dr. Brevin Campbell Ma'am, convener Seminar Committee, for her untiring efforts and great contribution in making BODHIKA 2022 a disciplined and a prestigious platform. A prudent mentor and a diligent guide. I thank our respected Dr. Sri Kumar Sir, member Seminar Committee, for extending his dynamic knowledge sharing and valuable comments during BODHIKA session. BODHIKA would not have attained this resounding success without your guidance, sir. Thank you. We are also thankful for the faculty presentation regarding the introduction to BODHIKA and its guidelines delivered by you, sir. We have amidst us a towering personality who always stretches an extra mile and doesn't settle for ordinary. BODHIKA Seminar Committee has been fortunate to be assisted by respected Dr. Rajmohan Sir, ex-president of the Academic Committee, for his constant support, valuable suggestion and encouragement throughout the series of BODHIKA. We owe you a debt of thanks. We are grateful to have with us respected Dr. Anandalakshmi Ma'am, President of Academic Secretary, for always lending a helping hand since the first thought of conducting BODHIKA evolved. We are highly indebted to you, ma'am, for your zealous efforts, guidance, and assistance at all times. I am very much thankful to our respected Dr. Sriraj Sir, Associate Professor, Department of Swasthapradha, for his support in creating virtual BODHIKA series a successful platform and also in creating the BODHIKA template. It would have been impossible to organize BODHIKA online without her support. I am very much thankful to respected Dr. Sanjeev Thomas, Sir, Director of ICAS, Institute for Cognitive and Communicative Neurosciences, for inauguration session of BODHIKA back in January 28, 2022. It was with your graceful presence we could head start the BODHIKA. My next vote of thanks goes to respected Dr. Madan Sir, Associate Professor, Department of Rachna Sharira, for his vibrant presentation on hydrodissection and sharing his insights into the subject. Above and beyond all, let's not forget the galaxy of respected teachers, the HODs and associate professors of all departments for chairing, judging and evaluating each sessions of BODHIKA. Thank you teachers for devoting your precious time and energy for BODHIKA. This vote of thanks would be largely incomplete, expressing my gratitude for all the final year PG scholars who worked really hard with diligence and perseverance to showcase excellent presentations over BODHIKA. BODHIKA appreciates each one of your efforts and stretching hours of work. Next, I am indebted to the bunch of PG scholars, namely Dr. Nimi, Dr. Nagesh, Dr. Akhilesh, Dr. Vishnu P, Dr. Vimal, Dr. Gopakumar, Dr. Megha, and Dr. Arjun, who went an extra mile, worked their tail off, and made BODHIKA seminar flourish without any stagnancy. A special recognition to respected Fine C. Dattan sir and Shri Harish for providing assistance in audio-visual system so that BODHIKA could run on track without any interruption. Thank you, sir. I thank the media partners, photographers and canteen staff for their support. No one can whistle a symphony, it takes a whole orchestra to play it. Last but not the least, I extend my gratitude to all the PG scholars for their attendance, participation and playing their parts right. Coming to the end of vote of thanks session. From behind the screen conducting online BODHIKA sessions to hybrid mode and then shifting to offline full-fledged functional BODHIKA, the journey from my point to the stage had been a marathon for me. I am thankful to the seminar committee and Samhati PGSA 2022 for having me assign this job, which I think I did fruitfully. Finally, thank you my friends for the continuous support and enthusiasm. I sincerely apologize if I missed out on somebody. Thank you once again. With this, we could end today's valedictory function. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. On that note, we are winding up for the day. Thank you all for your presence. Thank you.
I request all the